Testing, testing.
Welcome everybody once again to it's getting close to Oak Ridge High School football, and I know it's only April. We appreciate everybody that has come out to Okie Sports Grill tonight. We're gonna talk about the Oak Ridge football program. Before we get going, let me introduce the head coach of the Wildcats, Coach Derek Ring. Coach,
thank you.
He and I are going to talk a little bit about this upcoming football season. We're going to talk about the Wildcats and how they've been progressing in the spring. We're going to talk about the boosters, and we're going to have the Dance Cats do a little performance at the end of our little interview section here. We apologize we got on a little late. We're also streaming this game live over the internet right now on our Prep Radio site. So if anybody with families that want to watch this, Coach. First off, I know you and I have talked before. Let me get this off here. Well, you and I have talked before, but why don't you tell the people out there watching and here in the audience at Okies a little bit about your background?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of like we talked about on the first show. I'm from Maryville, so I kind of went to middle school and high school in Maryville, and was fortunate enough to be a part of a really good football program at Maryville High School, and we were able to win 3 state championships, and that was obviously fun, and that's obviously what we want to do here. And ended up graduating high school, and then I played 4 years at Maryville College, and just kind of still had a desire to be involved in football and be involved in athletics. So just kind of started carving out a coaching career, and spent some time as an assistant, and been able to obviously work my way up and be a head football coach at, I guess, 3 or 4 different high schools, and 3 or 4 different classifications, and kind of seen it all from that aspect. And everywhere we've been able to have a lot of success, and I think it just goes back to the way we work and the way we push our players to be successful. And so everywhere we've been, we've made a run and wanted to win state championships or come close to doing it. And you put a lot of high expectations on yourself and your program, and I think everything else kind of takes care of itself, and that's what we want to do here. And so done that, and then also taught a little math in the classroom, and a big numbers guy as well. So that's been fun, and that's been fun to kind of get to Oak Ridge already, and kind of get in the school and meet some of the kids and see that side of it, and then also after school kind of working with our football team.
When you first arrived in Oak Ridge, I know you were still having to be at your other school, so it was kind of a commute where you had to come in 1 week and then come back, and now I guess you've probably settled into the routine a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, now the routine's there, and obviously you kind of carve out each day is a little bit unique, but yeah, we're kind of getting into routine, and for the most part, know all the players. That's been good. We've worked with different groups, obviously earlier than others, but now it's kind of the point where you kind of come every day and know what to expect, and you're getting a chance to, instead of saying, hey, you're getting a chance to meet the players and know them by name and see them in the hallway, and actually kind of starting to build a lot of relationships with them already going into spring practice.
I'm going to ask Coach a few questions about the team, but we also have a microphone. If anybody in the audience at some point wants to ask Coach Ring a question, he has agreed to do that. So if you have a question, just let us know, and we'll pass the mic to you, Coach. When you first came in here last year, Oak Ridge made it to the third round of the playoffs, and obviously you said your expectations and your goals are to win state championships. This program has won a ton of state championships, starting back in the 50s with the latest in 1991. We've been to the state championship game 2 different times since that time, and unfortunately didn't come away with a win. But how do you build a state championship program?
Well, I mean, I think first and foremost, you want to really develop players. You want the physical part of it, and that's one thing I think that obviously Coach Day being in the weight room with the players every day, as far as some that have him during the class period, athletic conditioning, and then also the ones that come after school and work out with us. Number one, you want to build a team from the ground up, so it involves a lot of weight room stuff in terms of strength and conditioning. We want to develop speed, change of direction. do some of the stuff to make our players a little bit quicker and faster. And I think the third thing that kind of, maybe doesn't get, people don't realize as much is, when you go out and practice, like the best teams in the state, when they go out and practice, and get better. And their best players are able to push everybody else. Like your best players on your team, if they will compete against each other at a high level every day, kind of like the phrase, iron sharpens iron, then when you get a chance to play in a game like versus a Pal or a Knox West or, somebody that, you may have to get through to get to that level, then the competition factor won't be a big a deal because your guys are trained for that moment. So we want to have tough, hard-nosed, competitive practices. And I think if you do that and you're organized and, you just have a plan every day, the chips, I mean, with a little bit of talent and luck, you just never know what can happen with this group.
Let me ask you, I know the question that I get asked most about is what will you be running, like offense, defense?
Well, that's a big thing for everybody. And I think what we've always tried to do at schools that I've been at, we've not tried to, fit a square peg in a round hole. But, first and foremost, we've always tried to develop the quarterback position. So I guess I've been fortunate enough to coach a lot of different kids that have, had the opportunity to, sign scholarships from that position. So we've been doing, some different stuff with the young men vying for that position for a while now. So we want to get the quarterback position right. And then offensively, I guess, you want to tailor the minor details of it to what your personnel can do. But I guess as far as next year for this group, one thing from just being around the kids, I feel like the receiver position is going to be a positive for us. And I feel like running back, with DeJavis Dozier coming back, who had a big year last year. So we feel like if we can be multiple enough to where, if teams are going to, sit back and drop 8, then we'll just run the ball. If teams are going to, heavy the box a little bit and give us some one-on-one matchups, we're going to throw it. So I guess for the fans out there, we'll be multiple on offense. You may see us throw the ball more some games than others, vice versa with the run game. And then defensively, what we're going to base out of is 3-man front, which has the ability to get into a stack, a 3-3 stack, a 4-man front. We kind of have a unique wildcat defensive position, which is kind of got to be a guy that can rush the passer but also play in space. But I guess first and foremost, we want to attack on defense. So hopefully when you guys watch us play on defense, you're going to see guys that are in good, good stances, and when the ball's snapped, they're in position, and then they're able to, fly the ball, tackle, run, and hit.
Fundamentals are always important, obviously, and I know those are the kind of things you'll be working on in the spring. Talk about what you're going to be doing in the spring, getting ready for the season.
Well, we've kind of started already. We've been doing agility sessions and stuff, so we've kind of been doing some stuff, within the framework of the rules. And so I guess what we're doing right now, we have a lift-a-thon coming up next week, which, is kind of a big deal. We're kind of bringing that back. So the players have had a really, really good off-season lifting weights, and we want to showcase that. So it's going to be open to the public. We're just going to be in the weight room at the school from 4 to 5 on Monday and Tuesday, and hopefully you can see some guys pushing around some weight and getting excited with that. And that's going to springboard us into spring practice. So I guess for spring practice, the biggest thing we want to identify is we want to find out, kind of like, you were saying, David, is, who's going to run, hit, tackle on defense. And then offensively is who's that group of guys that really will determine where the ball goes. Because, I'm a big believer in, you want to identify who your best players are and, find ways to get them the ball every week. And generally the team that does that usually wins in this day and age. So hopefully you'll see us out there. You'll see us organized. You'll see us, being very crisp and snappy from station to station. And you'll see the young men working hard.
You mentioned DeJavis Dozier. I don't want you to go through, player by player, but as you came in the door, talk about the personnel that you saw immediately that you felt these are people that are going to be contributors, and how have they been developing?
Yeah, I guess just from some of the, senior standpoint, which is obviously it's tough for the seniors because they're having a different head coach for their senior year. But I've tried to talk to them a little bit and be like, hey, this team's about you. This is your last year of playing high school football, and just trust your coaches, and you'll ultimately make it what it's worth. But I guess Brandon Hayward, kind of met him early on. He's in track, but there's been a lot of different schools come by and check on him. So we expect him to have a big year playing receiver for us and defensive back, and we know he's a familiar name for the past couple of years. So he's obviously going to be a standout. Talked about DeJavis. really like Vashawn Knowles has kind of been one that defensively he's moves well and really enjoy his leadership and stuff like that. Elijah Bradley's another one, in the senior class that we got high hopes for playing defensive line. And then I guess offensively, I would talk about Brandon. Maybe Almani Remberts kind of stood out with his speed and athleticism. Connor Cummings is another one with athleticism and speed. And I've been more or less with the skill kids, so I've not been around the linemen for say as much. But he's kind of stood out. And then, as far as the quarterback goes, we got Blaine Stansbury, Ethan Garza, Life Goins. They're battling it out for quarterback, and feel good about that competition and what we're doing there. And so there's been a lot, and I know there's been some good players that are in baseball and track that we're not able to talk about. But I guess the skill position groups have really stood out just from some of the athleticism we have and the way the guys have moved around.
One thing you kind of answered this a moment ago, but what are your goals once you start spring practice itself? To look at individual players and see where they might fit, or just to see if the system is going to work with the guys?
Well, I think that, we kind of have an idea about the systems because the systems are pretty flexible. So we know we can tweak and tailor and do some stuff. I guess the biggest goal of spring practice, number one, I guess my biggest goal of spring practice is to, number one, determine, like we said, who's going to play physical and who's going to be tough. Who's that? What's that group of guys we got that are going to come every day and just get after it? And a lot of it's tough in this day and age for kids to do that. To come after school, the weather's going to be warm, but we want to find that group who's going to come every day, get after it, play physical, who's not going to shy away from contact. And then, I guess the next thing from maybe a minor goal in spring practice would be to kind of maybe solidify the offensive line a little bit. Just to try to maybe look at some pieces there and see how that's going to work, and kind of merge that with the defensive line, because we want to keep guys playing on one side of the ball in specific areas as much as possible.
One thing that I know as you came in, obviously you have to have a coaching staff. Talk about your assistant coaches that you've put on the staff.
Well, we've got we're close to having a full staff. I guess just to talk about, I guess we'll start out with some of the holdovers that were on staff last year that are going to stay on staff. We got Coach Kevin Day is going to stay on staff, and Coach is the school strength and conditioning. He's going to kind of run the school sports performance stuff as far as the in-class weightlifting. Kevin's going to stay on and work with the offensive line. He was a two-time All-American offensive lineman at Carson Newman, and kind of has some experience coaching high school and college football. Coach Rusty Parton is going to stay on staff. He has extensive experience coaching offensive football. He was the offensive coordinator at Farragut whenever they won their state championship, and he's been OC and DC in Knoxville for quite a long time. James Branson is going to stay on staff, work with tight ends, and James has been a good resource for knowing some of the kids in middle school as well. So about just some of their personalities and abilities. Ted Mitchell is going to stay on staff and work with our receivers and defensive backs. And, we all know Ted was a great player here at Oak Ridge, and Carson Newman as well. Vontae Henderson is going to stay on and work with our receivers and DBs. We're kind of putting a lot of emphasis on them. So he's going to stay on and work with receivers and DBs. And that's kind of the general, and I'll be with the offensive staff as well. So that's kind of the offensive staff part of it. And then we've also just hired Zach Kasner, who went to school here, and he just accepted a role as an aide inside the building, so he's going to be on staff. And then I guess defensively, David Hawkins is going to be our defensive coordinator. And David was our defensive coordinator. We were at Powell. Then he went to Farragut and was the DC when they won state. So, David's got a lot of great experience, running the odd front, been very attacking. We mesh well together, so he's obviously going to do a great job. Like I said, Vontae Henderson's going to work with defensive backs. He's going to kind of be our defensive pass game coordinator and really work with the secondary as well, because some of those kids in the receiver secondary are going to play both ways. We've hired Eric Thomas, who is an Oak Ridge alum, former All-State player, played at Georgia Tech. He's back in the area, and we're excited about him.
Got drafted, I think, by the Kansas City
Yeah.
Chiefs. So back
Yeah.
after.
So he was telling us he ended up having a tryout, and I guess tore his knee up, and ended up settling in Ohio and had a very productive career in law enforcement. And so now he's back in the area, so he's going to be with us on the defensive side of the ball. Right now, at defensive line, we got Ricky Chitwood working with the defensive line, and Ricky played here, and then just hired a new coach, Coach Bam, Lateran Thomas. I actually coached him, and he's going to kind of work with defense as well. And then I see Coach Kelly sitting back there, so
Stand
Coach
up, Mike.
Mike Kelly back there, so and that's one thing too that
Mike Kelly.
yeah. So obviously, and that's one thing we've talked about. That's one thing we've talked about too, is just how important we want special teams to be. And I know Coach Kelly, that's a big role, because if you have a kicker that can really, kick the ball in the end zone, man, it just, the probability of the opponent going 80 yards is just so low, and especially the field goal operations and punts. So we want, I've been fortunate enough to coach a Mr. Football finalist at kicker, and that's one thing that, we really want those guys to, feel really important, and know coach is going to do a great job with them. And I think that's pretty much it as far as the staff we have right now, and we still have, I think, a spot open, so we're still kind of, sniffing some things out.
Coach, I got a text message here from a former player on the 79 team that wants me to ask you, are you going to scrimmage in the spring?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. So I'm a big believer in competition, so we actually had, I guess it was going to be Ray County. We actually had a scrimmage with them, and then I guess based off spring sports and, multi-sport athletes, they couldn't do it. So actually right now we have replaced Ray County. We are going to, on May 16th, we're going to travel to Halls in Knoxville, which, Knox Halls, and we're going to have a practice with them. So it's going to be unique. It's not going to be like maybe just a scrimmage you're used to seeing when it's just team offense for 2 hours and teams are trying to, win. We're going to go with Halls, and we've kind of agreed just to have a practice, like do some inside drills, 7-on-7, do some team stuff, and just really coach and not get too caught up in, the whole arms race of who won a scrimmage or not, which I think is pretty funny anyway, because they don't really count for anything but evaluation. But so May 16th, we're going to travel to Halls, 5:30. It just got scheduled yesterday, so I was at the recruiting fair in Nashville. So yeah, we're going to practice with Halls, so that'd be good to get our kids on film.
What about in the fall? Are you going to scrimmage before the season?
Yeah, so in the fall, obviously now in the summer, you kind of have some of your 7-on-7s, so we'll do some of that. And then in the fall, we are going to the first scrimmage is going to be at Fulton. They're going to be up here at Blankenship. I believe that's July 28th, maybe. It's that last Friday in July. So Fulton, and then, of course, August 4th, we're going to travel to Maryville and scrimmage them. And then as of right now, we're tentatively scheduled to go back to Jefferson City for the five-star preps jamboree. And, because we looked at some different options that third scrimmage. A lot of teams go to jamborees. There was no one left to do just really scrimmage. So looks like we're going to travel back up to the five-star preps jamboree and maybe go against Science Hill potentially. It was one of the rumored matchups, but we've not been notified about anything official on that.
Coach, I know as you get closer, you were not hired before the schedule was made, and so the schedule is what it is. Kind of talk about the schedule that we'll be playing this year in the regular season.
Yeah, number one, I'll say this. When you only have 4 region games and you're trying to make a schedule, and the state did a little bit different this year. They just said, hey, here's your schedule and work around some stuff. So, it's obviously at Oak Ridge, we're going to have every year in and year out, we're going to play really good teams, and that's just the expectation. The schedule is kind of unique. Obviously, we open up with Jeff County, and they're supposed to have one of their better teams they've had in a long time. So that'll be a fun little matchup. And then we have the bye week right away, and then we play Powell on Rivalry Thursday for the second home game, and then I guess we go on the 5-game road trip right in the middle of the season, which is going to be tough. But I think I'm trying to think who else. I know McMinn County's in there, and obviously going to Carnes and going to the school down the road a little bit that thinks they're going to be pretty good this year. So.
You mean that one over across the county?
Yeah, oh yeah, going to Clinton, so we know that's going to be a big one. And then I guess going to Central, going to Farragut, and then you finally get Bearden, Lenoir City, Campbell County at home to finish the year. So very unique, but that's just the way it goes. And the good thing about it is when you're dealing with high school kids, I mean, heck, we've been talking about being road warriors already. If you got 5 straight road games, might as well win them all. So
I just got another text here from the same person, and he wants to know if you're going to get Kingsport Dobyns Bennett back on the schedule at some point during your tenure. Maybe that's a question for your athletic director over there. But that's the question he's asked me.
Yeah, we would like to obviously continue the tradition with Kingsport Dobyns Bennett. So that's something that we'll definitely in 2 years we'll you never know, we may be 6A in the same region, or we still may be 5A, but they're always going to be 6A. They got a really big school, but yeah, we definitely want to try to develop a relationship. We're going to play Kingsport, play DB every year basically. Yeah.
I see some of the booster people here, some of the officers in the booster club, and I know it's very important, especially in Oak Ridge, this time of, these days, it costs so much money to not just, run a football program, but to just, feed the team on certain nights and put them in really nice gear. Booster Club obviously is very important. What's your relationship with them? How's that been? And we'll talk a little bit about
I feel like it's been good. I mean, just we're all kind of learning the ropes, I guess, or just trying to, I guess for me, just kind of figure things out, because everywhere you go, every school you're at, the Booster Club, is a little bit unique for maybe how some stuff's budgeted, or, some of the fundraiser stuff you do. But that's, feel really positive about that relationship. And that's a big thing for any community if we can all just work together, because, all it comes down to is, the program is the program. And, the players make the program. That's what especially in football, you're going to have successful programs because you have good players that want to buy into it, come through it. And, so I think that's a big deal if people can, some of the fundraiser stuff that we do, I guess I know every sport kind of does it, but it really does 100% go back and help the kids. I know, right now we kind of have a lift-a-thon thing going on, and I did, talk a little bit about, some of the, let me make sure I get this right, but, I do know we have, some of this, the program ad flyers going on, the brag ad flyer. We can, try to, people just get out there and look at that.
A lot of that is for like the signs at the field,
yes,
and such, and just membership in the Football Boosters Club as well.
Yeah, I mean, signs for the football field and just membership in the Booster Club, and, just understand that, we want to increase that budget so we can do stuff for our team and our players and, run that first-class successful program. And that's the thing with football. Football, it just takes, just to pad a player with helmet, shoulder pads, and everything else is, probably in this day and age, I don't know if I've really actually tabulated it, but it's probably, $500-600 just per player. So, but we're doing that, and then obviously, have the ad flyers going on, and, so hopefully if you see that stuff, you can be a part of it and be a part of our community sponsorship.
Coach, I was listening to the radio today, and I heard a local coach from Knoxville talking about having a player participation fee, and that is something at Oak Ridge High School we have not had, which is I think in Knox County, if you play a sport, you have to pay a good amount of money, and unfortunately the Booster Club and such has made it possible for our kids not to have to pay that kind of fee. I'm sure that's still the same.
Well, yeah, and that's what you want. Obviously you want kids, and we talk about, and what we try to do, I guess, as a program, is obviously put a lot of work into football, so there's a sense of pride into it that they're, it's an extracurricular activity. So, these kids want to be a part of it. They want to stay after school and do the workouts and lift the weights and stay there at practice and watch film and do all this stuff that entails with football. So, we want them to enjoy that experience and not feel like they're pressured to have to come up with X, Y, and Z just to play the game they love. So we just want to try to use anything we can to let them play the game they love without having to worry about some of the extra stuff that some other places have to deal with.
Coach, I just got another text here, and I'll let you answer this one. It's a little bit more personal on your side. Have you moved to Oak Ridge yet, and is that your plans?
Yeah, well, actually, not yet. I'm actually going to. Right now, we're kind of building a house in the preserve, so we'll be in Oak Ridge in the end of summer. So the move-in date's July 31st, which coincides with our Maryville scrimmage week. So that's not ideal, but we'll make it work and focus on that. But yeah, so the plans move to Oak Ridge in July 31st, and then just be out there in the preserve and be a member of the community and moving forward. Looking forward to that part of it.
Coach, I just got two texts, and they basically asked the same question. Talk about the feeder programs, the boys club, the middle schools, and how important that is, and your relationship.
Well, obviously, it's huge, and we've been able to go over to the boys club already with Aaron and Sean and kind of talk about some stuff that we may have in conjunction after our spring practice here in May about bringing some of their teams up and practicing on our practice field after our varsity team practices. And we'll get to the middle schools here in May and kind of, number one, just get with all the 8th grade boys and, try to encourage as many of them to play football as possible. And then, obviously with Jefferson and Robertsville, we want to, maintain the tradition there. So hopefully in the summer we can do some camps and some stuff with staffs to where, we can kind of get on the same page a little bit, from a streamlined perspective about, hey, here's kind of what we want our identity to be with Oak Ridge football from, high school to middle school down to the youth league. And we're not saying just we want the philosophy to be the same. We want to, obviously have be able to develop quarterbacks, be able to do some stuff that, that involves, quarterback, mechanics, throwing the football, et cetera, playing with receivers and doing some of that. And we just look forward to getting that process started. And, obviously, David, it's going to take a little bit of time when you got, 4 elementary schools you're trying to get into, and then you got 2 middle schools, and right now everybody's testing. So there's all this state testing going on, and, some people are, you're just trying to juggle all that. But hopefully once we get in the summer, that'll come together. And then once we get the first year foundation under our belt, then we can kind of, see those programs grow kind of in our philosophy.
Coach, that older gentleman sitting in the booth over there has always been really big on tradition. I mean, tradition. Like he wasn't even paying attention. I'm picking on Coach Gaddis over there, but I said, Coach, that older gentleman said, oh, yeah, I know you don't see an older gentleman over there. But he has always been, and he's longtime two-time coach here.
Yeah.
Has always been about embracing our traditions.
Yeah.
Talk about how important that is to you.
Well, I mean, tradition's important. I mean, I think it's like the old saying, tradition never graduates. And I think if you have pride in your school and your community, then every group that you have wants to outdo the last group. I mean, that's the way we were in high school. We obviously going to Maryville was kind of like, well, this group may have won in 1998, won a state championship, and we had a chance to, maybe we wanted to, instead of winning 1, we wanted to win 2, and then, we were able to win 3. But I think it's huge when you have community support, you have tradition. And so I'm big in tradition, and I think Coach Gass has been a good resource about, hey, there's some stuff here that we want to keep and that we believe in, and it's a kind of a community thing and a school thing. And I think that's big, and I think that helps out, and I was talking to somebody yesterday. We were in Nashville at the recruiting fair, and I was talking with the college coach about just, he was asking me about maybe there's some programs that he goes and recruits. They have really, really good players, but then he looks at their record and they're going like 4-6 or 5-5 or whatever. And he's like, man, it's just odd they would have, some talent. And I said, I was telling him, I said, it really is like there's kind of this unknown art to winning and being successful that sometimes you just can't put your thumb on. I think at Oak Ridge you kind of have that. You have a place that there's been so many good players come through here. There's been so many good supporters come through here that, you want to bridge as much as that as possible and embrace that because, when you get in the fourth quarter of a game and you're playing a team that doesn't have the tradition that we do, ultimately the team that has the tradition is going to find a way to make a play. And we had a little conversation on that, and that was pretty fun. And he really didn't, realize that as much at his level because you can, recruit all these kids and kind of rebuild programs a little faster at the college level. But, yeah, that's a big, and Coach Gass will be a big resource on that. And it's been really good to work with him so far because he's been phenomenal to me and been a big help.
Anybody in the audience has a question? I'm getting other questions to ask, but anybody out there has a question, just we can pass the mic to you, or you can pass a note up here if you have a question. Another question I got here, I guess from a person who plays a multiple sport, football and another sport. Yeah. Talk about that and your thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, I think at schools that I've been at, some schools I've been at, we've had to embrace multiple sport athletes because we've been at some smaller schools where, kids did play football, baseball, and even basketball, all three. But I was a multiple sport player growing up. I kind of played football and baseball, and obviously we want to, embrace that as much as possible. We feel like that with the TSSAA calendar, there's certain times they'll be in a different sport, and obviously they're like we have guys right now in baseball, soccer, and track, and they're focused on their sports, and then whenever their sport ends, we want them to obviously be a part of our football program and train with us and obviously work around as much stuff as possible with, those unique kids that maybe there's a kid that may have an opportunity to, get a baseball scholarship and still wants to play football and has to go do travel baseball in the summer and do some makeup stuff. We want to work with every kid on that. Same deal with basketball. Maybe, there's a player that may have a chance to go get a basketball scholarship and have to go to a tournament in June or July, and we'll work with them on that. But we'll work with the kid on that as long as we can make it work and we can communicate clearly. Then we as a football program will embrace that, and as long as it's doesn't become an issue of avoiding work or anything like that, we'll make it work.
Coach, another one. I don't know exactly how to phrase this, but I'm not going to read it verbatim because. But basically, the gist of it is your job obviously is to mold young men, but it's also to beat Clinton every single year. So I'm going to let you address that one.
Well, I mean, and me and Coach Gass talked about this in the interview, and we've always, at schools that I've been at, we've always put a big emphasis in the rivalry games, and, which Clinton now makes it unique because they're obviously in our region, so it's even bigger because it's a rivalry game and they're in our region, and we have a small goal in our program is to win the region championship. And I know people may, we have bigger goals. Well, we do have bigger goals than that. But if you win the region championship, you host playoff games. And when you defend your home field, then you advance in the playoffs to the ultimate goal to win a state championship. So, Clinton obviously is a must-win every year.
Us old guys like Farragut,
and Coach
too.
Gaddis has brought that up a lot, just his despise of Clinton. And so it's going to be, but that's why that's why you do it, and I think it'll be fun because I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I think it just so happens like this next year from what everybody says, which I really don't follow the talk, but Clinton's supposedly going to have their best team ever maybe, and so it's going to be fun to get after them the first year when maybe in theory that they're supposed to be really good. So.
Farragut is also a rival, and other coaches in all the other sports tell me that when we show up for a ball game or they show up at our place, Oak Ridge, because of tradition over a long period of time, always has a bullseye on their back. Always a bullseye. They look at it, Oak Ridge. We're going to beat Oak Ridge. We have a ton of rivals. I would consider Farragut a rival. Yeah. Dobbins-Bennett was a rival. And if you look at all the teams that play us, they consider us a team want to beat. So, that's hard to get up every single week for everybody.
Well, that's part of the deal. That's part of playing for the program. And that's just what our kids have to understand is that, every game we play is going to be a big game for the opponent. But it's also going to be a big game for us because it's one of our opportunities to play football. And, like in basketball, when you get in the tournaments, you may lose a game and then still advance. In baseball, same deal. But, football, you get 10 guaranteed games. And our players put so much work in for those 10 moments. So, every game is going to be a big one. And but especially the rivalry games, those are the ones that, you get a little bit more amped up for those. And, that'll be fun. That's why you play the game is to play in games like that.
Coach, we must have a lot of people watching because I'm getting one question after another. Yeah. Are you going to have a true freshman team?
Yeah, that's the goal. So the goal is we want to have like a hybrid practice model. So like we're going to have some guys split up on the varsity staff eventually in offense and defense. And during spring, a lot of guys are going to play both ways in a half practice offense, half practice defense. So we as a staff can really just see everything. But yeah, we want to have as many. Yeah, we want to have a true freshman program that plays as many freshman-only games as possible. Now, the problem that we've gotten into is some of our so like we're obviously a big 5A school right now. Well, some of our opponents only have a JV team. So yeah, well, everybody's like, well, just go play bigger schools. Well, a lot of those bigger schools already have other games locked in their schedule. So right now we have 3 freshman-only games with Maryville, Bearden, and Farragut, and we're still trying to find – I guess we have one more date open. We're trying to find somebody that will play us in a freshman game followed by a JV game, which is what my goal is to do every Monday. But, some Mondays that just won't be feasible just because of our opponent.
Coach, a follow-up to that is there going to be dedicated coaches just for the freshmen?
Well, we're going to have, as far as the coaching staff goes, there's going to be a couple that work a lot with the freshmen. Now, they're going to have some varsity responsibility too. So that's why I keep saying it's going to be like kind of a hybrid deal. It's not like the freshmen are just going to be sent off and, just do their own thing. They're going to do some stuff with the varsity, and then some stuff they'll do that's separated. But, yes, there will be 2 or 3 coaches that, work quite a bit with the freshmen.
Here's another one. Tennessee just had the orange and white game. Are you going to have a cardinal and gray game?
Well, we actually are not, because we're going to go down to Halls and do the practice. So we felt like it was more beneficial to go against somebody else and, go against an opponent versus just kind of having an inter squad, because we still have some guys out with baseball and track potentially. So instead of doing the inter squad, we thought it'd be better just to go against somebody else.
Another person wants me to ask you, when are we going to get Maryville on the schedule as a regular game and not a scrimmage game?
Well, I mean, that could be in the works, and and the biggest thing is we'll just have to see kind of how the chips fall next reclassification, because Oak Ridge has always kind of been on that cut mark at 6A and 5A the past couple times they've done it. So if we stay 5A, then Maryville's probably one team that we'll look at adding as a non-region game, and then if we end up going 6A, though, they'll probably be in the region like it was back. You remember back at maybe 10 or 12 years ago. It was,
right. Coach Stevens was here. We played them regularly.
Yes, they were in the region. It was somehow they were playing. So I remember watching some of those games on Rivalry Thursday. But, I mean, that would be a good game, and that's what, I mean, I'll be all about it.
Coach, we're not done here, but I see the dance cats over here.
Yeah.
Probably, and I'm going to ask a question about them, and then I'm going to let them do a performance so they can leave if they want to. I know I can see them a little anxious over there, but Coach, talk about how important it is to have a good relationship, not only with the dance cats, the band, the cheerleaders, and all of that.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't have a good relationship because, I mean, we are all in this together from a community standpoint. And obviously, and we are in the, football, obviously in the Southeast, football is a big deal, and football is a big deal in this community. But there's so many other entities that just make that experience at Blankenship so nice. And, band, dance cats, cheerleaders, student sections. I mean, all the people that are volunteering their time to just make it such a community atmosphere. And, people don't forget that. And then you see all the kids up the hill, running around, just wishing at some point they're going to play on that field. And, so we just really appreciate all their support. And, we want to develop a positive relationship with all the different groups and organizations and extracurricular activities in our school.
Ladies, if you want to do your performance here, we'll get you that part of the show, and we'll let Coach rest a little bit here. Ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Oak Ridge Dance Cats.
Our website.
What's that?
I think I said this stuff right. You did. Yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies. We appreciate you coming down here, and we look forward to seeing you again in the fall. Thanks for coming. Nice round of applause for them once again.
Yeah.
We're live here at Okie Sports Grill, and we appreciate Lynn Hart and them for allowing us to come here. Coach, other questions here. I've got several. I don't know how long you want to stay.
We'll stay here all night. I don't know.
Are there any major equipment needs that you need to purchase, and are you going to reach out to local businesses? I guess the Boosters Club is doing that. Are you reaching out to local businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing would be, kind of like we talked about with some of the program ad sponsorships and some of the signage and, some of the stuff like the banners and different stuff like that. But I guess as far as equipment needs, I mean, one thing that we're going to do a partnership with Catapult Sports. So, I like the technology part of it. So we're going to have 20 vests come in here next couple of days. We're going to be able to track our players' miles per hour and workload and all this stuff that every Power 5 school pretty much does it. And so that's going to be a big addition to our piece. I guess a lot of the field equipment looks pretty good. We were down there today, kind of looking at some stuff. So I think we're pretty good with some stuff there. And then I guess for me, I mean, it would just be a matter of maybe from a long-term standpoint is. I guess because we want to develop, because part of our program philosophy, is to take the kids that we have in our community and just really develop them to the highest level. So there may be some weight room ideas we look at, maybe kind of knock on some doors and kind of figure out what we can do there. But, I guess if stuff comes up and we need something, I'll be more than happy to go out there and try to knock on some doors and kind of feel some people out. And then also, people can also, join our booster club and purchase some of the ad stuff we talked about. That just goes back and helps our program as well.
Coach, so I know they did part of the renovation at Blankenship Field, the new field, obviously, the fence around it. Part of the long-term plan, and I know it requires a ton of money that's going to continue to have to be raised, big money, to finish the press box, to get a new dressing room. How is that progressing? What do you know about that?
Well, I mean, as far as how it's progressed. I mean, I don't have a lot of details on the progression. That I've seen some of the plans as far as some ideas for the press box and to be able to, have a big enough locker room for our full team to go in, and then maybe have like a visiting area down there in a different location. That's all great. I think, Blankenship's phenomenal. It's just full of tradition, and so obviously just some of the current upgrades are nice, but I guess that's the biggest thing as far as some of the big picture stuff. I guess, the biggest thing is if we can kind of just, get along and all that and maybe just, share our vision as a community for what we want it to look like, then we'll be all about it.
Coach, another question here. Who is going to be your offensive coordinator?
Oh, the offensive coordinator. So basically what we're going to do is I feel like we have a great offensive staff. We've mentioned those guys already. So for the first year, there was a lot of interest in the position from people on the staff or outside the staff. So we just kind of made a decision the first year that I would call the plays. It's going to be a collaborative effort between me and Rusty Parton and Kevin Day and James Branson and Vontae Henderson. Ted Mitchell will be involved with some receiver ideas, and Zach Kasner will be working with the offensive side. So. But I think the first year I will call the plays, and then as we move forward, we'll just kind of see how that shakes out down the road.
I got one actually from somebody in the audience here that wants to know your opinion on the strength of our schedule, the teams that are on our schedule.
Yeah, as far as the strength of schedule, I mean, at Oak Ridge, you're always going to have a tough schedule. I'm trying to think just off the top of my head. It's got some balance to it. We know that, obviously Farragut was one of our bigger games. They're going to have a really good football team. They usually do year in and year out now. Bearden's on there, and Bearden is, really on the upswing. They're getting a lot of talent in the halls of Bearden right now. Powell, I know a lot about Powell, and they still have, even though they lost a lot from last year, they still have a lot back, and they could have easily won the semifinal game last year against West. I mean, they were right there at the very end. So those are three really good football teams we're going to play. I think probably the region portion of the schedule, with us being at a smaller region may not be the best, region from Oak Ridge, historical, traditional region they've played in. But obviously, I mean, it's supposed to be, one of Clinton's better teams. But as far as the overall strength of it, I guess we'll just have to kind of see when we get to the season. But I do know, Jeff County's supposed to have one of their better teams they've had in a long time. But, some teams are going to be up, some teams are going to be down. But that's just kind of the way it is, and that's the schedule we got for 2 years, and it won't change until a couple years down the road.
Coach, I'm going to phrase this one safely because I actually see some of your linemen in here, but I've got another one coming in, but I guess you've noticed once you come to Oak Ridge, we don't always have the biggest guys. I guess, did you notice that? I mean, our guys just don't seem to be growing like they do at other schools, but obviously it doesn't matter if you coach them up, I guess.
No, I mean, and that's the thing you got to do. I mean, you got to fit what you're doing is to what your personnel can do. And we know right now, I mean, on the offensive line, we feel like we're going to be maybe bigger than what we've traditionally been, maybe the past 4 or 5 years. But when you have, when the quarterbacks have been working as hard as they have, and when you have some of the receiver type kids that we have at Oak Ridge and are going to have at Oak Ridge, well, maybe you can get by with some smaller linemen, and maybe you can use the forward pass as a way to open up some run lanes instead of going the other way around. Some philosophies are where we're going to, pound the rock, and then once they come up, we're going to throw it over their head. Well, maybe you kind of spread them out, throw it, run them horizontally, and then, that'll play to the strengths of the line. But you got to coach them up. And the good news is with the kids that we got, we feel like that the group really takes a pride in work and technique and just doing those small little details correctly. But, I mean, some teams may be bigger than us, but, I don't know who's going to have, maybe better skill kids on the perimeter than us, and that's what we feel good about the next year.
Here's an interesting question. I know it's important, is particularly to a couple people who are in the audience here. Drayton Hawkins, the principal, is sitting over there. You give him a round of applause. He's principal at Oak Ridge High School. And that's the Dance Cats they're all about, Mr. Hawkins. But we have a school board member in the audience, too. The question is about your push with academics with the kids on the team and such.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it, too. And that's one thing that I guess just for me actually being in a core class with them and teaching in my, Algebra 1 and some geometry and kind of, seeing that side of it. We want to hold our kids to a high standard in the classroom as well. And, obviously we're going to have some expectations for grades, and, we're going to have a program if every case is going to be kind of a case-by-case basis. But, if a student cannot perform in the classroom, then, that's really going to obviously affect their playing time or potentially even affect their eligibility with the team from just participating, because we want our kids, we want to eliminate all, failing grades. And if stuff is addressed and doesn't get fixed, well then, because if football is important to that kid, if you really want to play football, then you'll fix that grade. You'll find a way to do it. If football is not important to you, then you won't. So, so we're going through that process right now with some, but it's very important to me, and I feel like that every school we've been at, we've been able to kind of get the message sent home.
Coach, we got a question from the audience in the back. Looks like a player, actually. Go ahead with your question.
There you go.
What was your worst injury you had in football?
The worst what?
Injury.
The worst injury? Oh, so I was fortunate, Owen, that I guess as a player, I never really had a major injury that involved like a torn ACL or a broken leg. But I would say my worst injury, I feel like there was one point, I guess this is back, before you had all the fancy girdles and whatnot. And I guess one game in high school, I took the crown of a helmet like right to my thigh. And for whatever reason, I just had like a deep tissued hip, like just a Charlie horse that just was like so painful. I guess it was so bad. And the bad part was, like we were in the playoffs at Maryville, and it was just in so much pain. I couldn't hardly do anything, and I was trying to be tough, and because like you didn't have anything broken. So like if you break your leg, it's like, oh, coach is like, oh yeah, you're out for the season. But I'm trying to fight through it, and I just never could really do anything. But just the pain was so bad. I don't know Heck, I may have had a torn muscle or something in there. I don't even know now. I never went to the doctor, but yeah, that was very painful.
Coach, it's always interesting when you hand high school kids microphones. I think we have another one back here.
What position did you play in high school?
So, Hudson, I was actually a linebacker. That was kind of my primary position. So I played linebacker at Maryville High School, and I guess I was always a good linebacker because I kind of go in there and try to hit people and make tackles. And, you know, we had a good little group. There were three. And in high school, there were three senior linebackers we had that all kind of played together. So I was pretty much a linebacker. I was kind of defense only. So.
Coach, the health looks like we have another question here. We got the microphone. Go ahead, Andrew.
Is it not working? Hello. Okay. Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Coach, considering you played under probably the best coach that ever lived in the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Except for Coach Gaddis. But considering that, like, tell me the things that you took away from him and, like, how you could apply that to your coaching talents.
Well, I think the biggest thing, I guess my biggest takeaway from Coach Quarles was I just understand the importance of details, and I guess when it comes to offensive football, you know, and now you'll kind of hear this, and this is back 20 whatever years ago, but I think a good point in football is more games are lost by a team than, like, for, say, one. So, like, if you're playing a team, generally a team finds a way to lose that game versus the other team finding a way to win it. And I think at Maryville just reinforced that because we were so detailed and precise with everything. But, like, every player had their responsibility, and it was like you just did that responsibility at a precision and an effort level that was your best every rep. And it wasn't like we just had a team full of, you know, SEC commits. But when you have 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense, 11 guys on special teams that are all bought in to do their job, then you win. And then also when you believe you can win. You know, like there wasn't one game I played in high school where, like, we ever thought we were going to lose. And I think that's the big thing, too, like the power of belief with kids is like you know, like for us, and that's one thing we'll talk about with our team is, like, who in this room believes we're going to win a state championship next year? And then, like, you know, some kids will just stare at you. And I was like, well, why do you not believe that? You know, we have talent, we have this, we have that. So I think the biggest takeaway from Coach Quarles was just the detail of execution of offensive football and then just the belief that, like, we're going to win every game that we play. There's not even a thought about we're going to lose whatever, you know.
Got another question. I'll let you answer that. You can read the question first, and I don't want to admit it, but I don't have my reading glasses, so I can't really see too well. So
I'm trying to see what this says. What is your on how plays will be? What do you think that?
You want to add, Shauna? You want to just?
What is your stance on the colors for the players for games?
As far as, like, the colors of their socks and stuff like that, cleats and socks. And so what we have so what I've told the players already, so our policy is going to be we're going to have team issued socks. That's you know, going to kind of take care of itself. And then we want school colors on everything. So as far as cleats go, I mean, we're not going to make them, you know, obviously every kid's a little bit different from a purchasing standpoint, but we want school colors on cleats and gloves, and then we're going to give them team socks. And obviously if there's a situation with a player that maybe have an issue with, you know, it could be from a financial situation to where, you know, but we do have plenty of black and white cleats in there as well. But I guess the biggest thing we want to do, you know, number one, look as a team, play as a team, and, you know, we wouldn't want any colors out there that are not, like, representative of Oak Ridge. So, I mean, I'm a big team color guy, so, you know, team colors on that. And obviously, you know, now with some of the high school rules and everything, you can't wear all them armbands and stuff anyway. So we'll be team color. We'll have team socks that we'll issue them for home and road games. And then we want team colors or black and white on cleats.
Another question, Coach. Are we still Nike?
Are we still Nike? Yes, we're still Nike. Coach Gaddy. Yeah, nothing's changed there. So we're still Nike, and we just ordered some new away uniforms, or I guess Coach Gaddis ordered them. So I guess I'll inherit those. But so yeah, we're still Nike.
You know, one thing, honestly, I'm not a break from tradition, because if you look at the colors that you and I are wearing, if you look at Jackie Pope's jersey that's in the hallway at the football office, it's a redder color, true cardinal. Somehow over the years cardinal. That's what I'm saying. It has kind of morphed into more of a maroon color. Not that I like these colors. I don't know the answer. I don't want to hand the mic over to Mr. Gaddis over there, Coach Gaddis, but it wasn't in his time. But the colors used to be cardinal, like the St. Louis Cardinals. And,
yes.
But I don't know if I have a
well, I'm a Cardinal fan, so I'd be all about that.
Cardinals fan.
But yeah, but yeah, as far as the colors go, that's one thing I was kind of trying to figure out a little bit. You know, is
Coach has a mic over there.
Well, that was 65 years ago, David. The color has faded a little bit off that jersey.
Okay. All right, we'll go with that. That was Coach Gaddis. I think that's the only thing. Any other questions? Right.
Yes, that was my understanding too.
Yeah. For whatever reason, over, like Coach has said, 50, 60 years, it is, and maybe, and I don't know the answer to this. Mr. Helton probably would know better, former athletic director, that maybe they just couldn't buy that color, or they didn't offer those colors. I don't know. We don't want to change. One thing I want to say, we don't want to change the logo on the helmet.
The helmet logo is going to be the same.
Good.
So nobody needs to get too caught up over that. So
yeah, that's one thing that happened a few years ago that was just totally, in my opinion, unacceptable. Looks like your boss has a question.
If I could speak to that, that is one of the questions that he was asked in the interview about the helmet logo. I have not been here long, but I have better sense than to change that helmet logo. And so he answered that question correctly. So I'd like to assure everyone that he answered that question correctly.
We're not going to ruffle anybody's free. We're not going to rock the boat at all. We're going to keep that helmet. I mean, that's tradition. So.
Coach, about 13 or 14 years ago, we had a coach that he wanted to put his own stamp on it, and he changed the helmet.
Yeah.
And you
I think that was the year we played y'all up when I was at PAL with the block OR.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and I was like, that's a little bit different, you know. And so it kind of caught me by surprise too. But the helmet. Don't worry about the helmet, y'all. It's going to be good. We're going to keep the helmet very, very familiar to the Oak Ridge faithful.
Very, very unique. Coach, I'm looking around the audience. Does anybody else have any questions? I know we've gone about an hour here, so I want to, let's see, any guy, questions?
Anybody got any questions?
I guess not, Coach. So just to close it out here, I know you want to meet some of the people who are here.
Oh, yeah.
But just your final thoughts as we head into spring practice, as we head into the season, and just about the Oak Ridge football program, where it stands right now.
I mean, I feel like it's been really fun, you know, just from getting here inside the school building, and for us kind of starting our spring phase, going into our spring phase of agilities and workouts and conditioning, and you know, the young men have been working really, really hard, and I guess it's fun now for them, you know, because everybody, you know, there's some, obviously we have quite a few positions that are up for grabs and available, and so we've seen that, the competition side of the roster, and I guess for me, it's just, you know, looking forward to spring practice, looking forward to the summer, and, you know, it's going to be a fun deal, and just appreciate everybody coming out and all their support. And I guess it's been fun to do stuff like this, David, you know, because you're able to get a lot of information from a lot of people who have, you know, went to school at Oak Ridge and lived here their whole life, and just seen, I guess from the football side of it, just seen so much stuff, or been a part of so many, you know, great seasons and games and players that, you know, there's a lot of pride in making sure that we can continue the tradition at a high level, and you know, we're going to work and fight and claw to do whatever we can to, you know, put another gold ball in the trophy case. I mean, that's what me and Mr. Hawkins were talking about. You know, he's wanting more state championships, and so we're on every year. That's kind of our goal, and but we feel like that all this other stuff kind of contributes to that. You know, I can just sit up here and tell you guys, oh, we want to win a state championship next year, and that's easy to do. But, you know, the hard part is to make that a reality by, showing up to workouts, showing up on time, being disciplined, being accountable, being able to do some stuff on your own, being able to put the team first, make good grades in school, not be a distraction in a teacher's classroom and whatever. So all that stuff kind of correlates to where if we can get guys that want to make those decisions and kind of be on the right side of the fence from just that character standpoint, then that's when you get in the semifinal game or a quarterfinal game and you're getting in the fourth quarter and somebody's got to dig deep and fight, and the kids that have taken care of all that other stuff's business, then that's when it really shows up, and that's when you can put a football team that the community can be proud of out there.
Coach, I appreciate you coming down here, and I know the people out here. Just give Coach Rang. It's he hasn't met a lot of you all, I guess, but it's good that he comes out and meets you. And thanks for joining us here.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, there's some familiar faces in here. We got some players in here, and we got some different people that I've met maybe at a basketball game or been out in the community at some point or whatever. So it's been.
I saw you at a baseball game too. So.
Yeah, I was at the baseball game. It was that was good. And what about Oak Ridge baseball this year?
16-5 right now.
Yeah, 16
district champions. First time since the 70s that they won the regular season district championship in baseball, which is great.
And that's what's been fun too. Is like just how accepting like a. Coach Free or a Coach Green or some of your other, Coach Sawyer, some of your coaches in the sports that you're kind of interacting with about kind of goes back to that community thing. We want to support baseball, and it was fun to go out there and watch them compete and just, you win the first district championship since, forever. Because Oak Ridge baseball has always been in a pretty competitive district with some of your West Knoxville teams. So that's been fun. So it's been fun to get out and do some of that stuff.
Coach, I appreciate it. Dance Cats are going to do one more thing, and we're gonna close out our broadcast. Come on, ladies. Coach, thanks a lot. Y'all ready? Close it out here. Let's get the Dance Cats in one more time. If you're ready, they are huddling, and I don't know if they're going to go one more time. But anyway, I appreciate all of you all for coming out here. We appreciate all of you watching on our YouTube channel. It's on Prep Radio. It's on Oak Ridge Schools Television Channel 15. Right now as well. I appreciate all the people who text me. Here they come. So we'll close it out with them. And thank you. And we look forward to doing this again in the fall when we get ready for the Jefferson County Patriots, which will be our first ball game in August.
Yep. Oh, we're good.
Pam's almost ready here. I think they want you to get involved with this.